Welcome to Frontlines. We'll take a moment here at the beginning to allow people to do their shares and their cross posts before we get started. Welcome to Frontlines. We'd like to welcome our viewers from across the United States and Canada, throughout Europe, Australia, as well as the Middle East, and of course in Armenia and Artsakh as well. We'd like to thank the various platforms that are cross-posting and sharing our program. And today, tonight, or this morning, depending on where you are, we're going to be discussing a number of issues. With a guest that will be able to speak on a wide range of issues affecting the crisis in Armenia today. And as we all know, those that have been following, the last 48 hours have been particularly disheartening, as we have done on this program many times, highlighting the issues in Syunik with the Human Rights Ombudsman Armand Tatoyan, who has taken a number of trips to the Syunik region to report and to identify and register incidents along the border. The last 48 hours have been extremely disappointing, learning of the encroachment of Azeri forces within inside 3.5 kilometers of the existing Armenian border. With that, let me pass it off to Garo to introduce our guest for today before we get into the conversation.
Thank you, Karnig, and good morning, everyone in Yerevan and everywhere else in Armenia, Stepanakert and everywhere else that's remaining in Artsakh. And good day in the United States and everywhere else in the diaspora. Our guest today is someone that I particularly have an interest in and I have followed for a number of years. He is a member of the National Assembly of the Republic of Armenia. He is none other than Edmon Marukyan, the chairman of the Bright Armenia Political Party. It should be noted that the Bright Armenia Party was established to create a new quality political culture in Armenia, to contribute to the modernization of Armenia's social political life, sustaining of state institutions, and perform political generation change by bringing new values, new ideas, and new bright people into politics. The Bright Armenia platform from its creation was to build and develop progressive Armenia with equal opportunities where the citizens will not hardly survive, but live with dignity. And how telling it is that we are talking about what's going on today. Bright Armenia Political Party has strived to be open for cooperation with anyone sharing its goals. If you are willing to join us, as they said in their initial maiden voyage, to change Armenia, you are wholeheartedly welcome. Edmon Marukyan, by way of background, is also the former founder and chairman at the Center for Strategic Litigation's Human Rights NGO, which he was involved in for a couple of years from 2010 until 2012, when he became a member of the Armenia's National Assembly, which he remains to this day. By way of education, Edmon Marukyan has a very impressive set of credentials, including having studied international human rights law, at University of Minnesota Law School, and has a master's degree in law, which commonly is known as LLM, for a number of years, going back to 2010. He has also studied public administration at the Public Administration Academy of the Republic of Armenia. He has also studied and holds a bachelor's degree in jurisprudence from Moscow Institute of Commerce and Law, fluent in Russian, English, and Armenian. I am delighted to have him as our guest. Edmon Marukyan, you are welcome.
Thank you so much for introduction, Garo. Very happy to be guest of yours, and I hope I can answer to all of your questions, and interested viewers will be somehow informed about what is happening in Armenia during these days. Thank you so much for the invitation.
I'm happy to have you. Karnig is happy to have you. Karnig, go with the first question of the evening.
Sure. And thank you, Mr. Marukyan, again for joining us. And perhaps you could help us really make sense of the last 48 hours with respect to what is happening in Syunik. We have heard quite a bit regarding there's been some international commentary regarding the issue from France in particular, as well as the government of Armenia reaching out to the CSTO to advise them of the situation. Can you please bring our viewers up to speed on what has happened over the last 48 hours and what you envision happening over the next 48 hours?
Thank you so much. It's already 2 days that Azeri forces invaded Armenian sovereign territory, Syunik region. The location is called Black Lake. The part of the Black Lake, according to all maps, maybe about 80% or more, belongs to Republic of Armenia. And it's according to Soviet Union, all kind of maps. So they just, occupied the territory, invaded Armenian territory about 3.5 kilometers. And they stopped there. There are no clashes, but according to our information, Armenian forces negotiating with them. And as I know, Russian peacekeepers as well joined to the negotiations yesterday, and they didn't go back. So they claim that according to their own maps, so it's their territory, and they're just, finding out where they must, build their new borderline. And they say it's like an ordinary situation, so that we are doing right after the ceasefire statement November 10th. And, according to the maps and these GPS systems, stuff like that. So we are coming and finding out our borders as we must stay there. So the Prime Minister, during the National Security Council meeting, stated that this is invasion of the Armenian territory, and we condemn this. And then in a second meeting of the Security Council meeting, the Prime Minister ordered to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Defense, to apply to the CSTO for the engagement of the CSTO in this kind of situation. Again, stating that there is no clashes, but the situation is we are in a crisis, we can say. It's not somehow like we are. Because before he said we are close to say that it's a crisis, then we argued that we are in a crisis. So right now I can say that we wait for the reaction of the CSTO. Of course, yesterday we had a statement of the CSTO that we are following the situation and the developments that is happening in Armenia, in the Syunik region. But I hope today, so now we are in early morning in Armenia, today we will have information from the CSTO what they are going to do. And I can tell you that this is the first time that CSTO member state using the mechanism of the CSTO of fast reaction, it's called. Like
collective defense mechanism.
Yeah, it's called like быстрое реагирование. In Russian, it's like fast reaction. In translation, it will be
Swift.
fast reaction.
Swift.
Yeah.
Swift.
Yeah, swift reaction of the organization to defend member state border and member state territorial integrity and sovereignty. So right now we are here. So late night yesterday, Prime Minister talked with the President Macron. President Macron did a statement in a Facebook and Twitter. We got an Armenian Facebook statement that Azerbaijan invaded Armenian territory and they must leave the territory. This is also, I think, very important. And now we are in a situation that, on one hand, I understand the government that if we take measures against this small group of the military forces, Azerbaijan, that invaded Armenian territory, then we may find all of us, in a new war, at this time in an Armenian territory. On the other hand, to tolerate this kind of action, it's like tolerate Armenia's violation of the Armenian territorial integrity, which impossible to tolerate. And it was stated during the meeting of the Security Council. And I hope so that today, with the mechanisms and leverages of the CSTO, Azeri forces will leave the Black Lake zone, and they will go to their positions. So if not, I can tell you that crisis will not be solved, and there is a risk of clashes as well.
And Mr. Marukyan, if I can follow up with that, I have really two questions. My understanding of the CSTO essentially is it's a collective security pact, and that collective security pact, however, is really a secondary source of the defense of the borders. The primary source of defense of those borders rests with the Armenian government, of course.
Yes.
With Armenia. And I guess my question is this: we've seen some footage from the Black Lake Sevlij region, and I guess what is a little bit disheartening is that in the 6 months since the signing of the joint statement, the question arises of whether or not Armenia has done enough to fortify its own borders. What are your thoughts on that in terms of the 6 months that have gone by? Many villagers have been saying that in the Syunik region have been saying that there is insufficient reinforcement in those villages, and perhaps these are the types of incidents that to some degree are inevitable if there is no proper first line of defense at the borders. What are your thoughts on that? And are there actions being taken now to improve that situation generally across the new border?
So we all must recognize the situation that what happened with us during and after the war. And this is the aftermath of the war. So, and we have 140 kilometers of new border with Azerbaijan. So it's a new reality. It's a new challenge. And we have places, of course, like Black Lake zone, that we didn't have forces. We didn't have military forces. We didn't have military positions. And we didn't have, people there to stop Azeri invasion. So this is a reality. We must accept it. This was like this. Of course, we criticize the government, the defense ministry, the military, that why we don't have forces there. But we must understand that this is a new reality. We have 540 kilometers of new border, which is not equipped with anything. It's a new thing. It's a new reality. And after November 10th, it was a winter. And there are places that during winter time, it's impossible to go and build positions and be there. And after the weather changed, now spring comes, it was planned. So this information I'm giving you, it is the information that we got. It was planned that our military will go there and build their positions, stuff like that. But when they realized that Azeris came before our military forces, it was a surprise. And on the other hand, the argument is this: like they don't have right to, invade Armenian territory. Yes, of course they don't have right. But are we, keeping our borders, these new borders that we got after the war, or not? And I understand that we have not done, our homework to have enough resources. Human resources, military resources, equipment, and everything to rebuild or build these new borders that we have with Azerbaijan. I understand that we must do it on a daily basis, but this is the reality, and we must face with it, the reality, because, of course, we have people that they claim that why we don't have forces there, why we didn't put there this and that, but we must understand in what situation we find out our army right after the war. We fought a 44-day of war, and it was a very big war, very big war.
Mr. Marukyan, I have a lot of respect for you. For those who
Likewise.
Thank you. For those who don't know, in case there is anyone that doesn't know, you are an opposition party in parliament. Isn't that correct?
Yes, of course.
Right. So, and you take this matter of Syunik seriously enough that because of the rising tensions, the Congress of the Bright Armenia Party that was supposed to take place on the 15th of this month, I believe this weekend, you postponed it pending additional, announcements to reschedule. When we talk about resources do not exist, I've heard you over and over again in Parliament challenging the government in place about what you perceive and what many perceive shortcomings by the government. A government which, by the way, came into office in what has now widely been known as the Velvet Revolution, which you were a part of initially, correct? Right? I remember when you came and joined and you decided this is the time and this is the right thing to do. But then there was obviously a philosophical, ideological, a principled disagreement, and no one can respect principled disagreements more than I. I respect it. What do you have to say about the foreign policy collapse that I see? Because when we talk about CSTO, let's not forget that during the 44-day so-called war of Artsakh, which was really an annihilation by uneven powers on either side, there were 3 violations that I recall, 3, onto the territorial integrity of Republic of Armenia, and the guarantor by treaty, by CSTO, and all other forms, Russia and others didn't say anything. They just said, it was accidental. I think there was a helicopter that was down. They said, oh, that's accidental. There was something else that was done. They said that was accidental. A rocket fell. They said that was accidental. And now, I'm kind of beginning to buy into this deep conspiracy. I don't really buy into these things very well because I'm looking at Abkhazia, Ossetia, Moldova, and all of these different places, that Russia, big brother, somehow, some way, lets down its little brother. And, you know, I live in Glendale in a comfortable, you know, Southern California suburb outside of Los Angeles. I don't give myself the permission to claim that I know better and I know what's right for the person that lives in Syunik, the person that lives in Yerevan, or lives in Kashatagh, or the one that got evicted out of Karvajar, or the one that no longer lives in Hadrut, or the one that is no longer in Shushi. But I look for you as an opposition party leader, an intelligent leader, a young progressive leader, to call it as you see it, which you have many times. When the foreign minister of Republic of Armenia, the acting foreign minister, due respect to Mr. Ayvazyan, says, you know, it's not acceptable to us that there's a territorial integrity violation. Okay, what does that mean? When the president of France says, we have brotherly feelings, we counsel Azerbaijan to not engage in this violative behavior, what do we have to do? What can the prosperous Armenia Party do? What can Edmon Marukyan do? What can Garo do, Karnig do, or anybody else do to change the reality on the ground? I'll go protest in front of the Azeri consulate every day of the week if I thought that was going to change the dynamic. I think I talked too long. There's a question or two in there. Go ahead.
Thank you, Garo. You know what is happening? It's very easy right now in Armenia and outside of Armenian diaspora to criticize Armenia-Russia relations or Armenia foreign affairs, whatever. But we must you know understand in what reality we are. First of all, let's take a Syunik case. Azeris invaded Armenian territory. Our reaction must be killing them, okay, not allowing them to invade our border, and go deep to our territory, or take them as hostages, and then they will become prisoners of war, and then we can exchange them. So this is my understanding of the, you know, our actions. In this kind of action, Russia has nothing to do because it's our border, you know, and it's Azeri forces, you know, entering to our territory. But we didn't do so because we didn't have forces there, first of all. And second, when our forces, you know, arrived there, so we started negotiations in order to, you know, not provoke new conflict at this time in Armenian territory. I understand the cautious steps of the Armenian government. We are, you know, just entered from the devastating war, and I understand that. But on the other hand, you know, we cannot tolerate, as I said. So as for the Russian relations here, there are many conspiracy theories, as you said. I don't want to buy that. And also, I can tell you that right now we have anti-Russian forces here. We can have political forces, people who give interviews on daily basis and say, you know, Russia is not defending us. Russia is a bad partner. Russia is not our big brother. And stuff like that. So, and then one must, you know, think that like, okay, what we can do then? Okay, how we are going to rebuild our army? Okay, do we have any other alternative in this region? If not Russia, if not STO, then what? I'm a, as you said, US graduate. So many people, they think that I'm a pro-Western. I am a pro-European. I'm pro-values. I'm pro-values that these values are developed and succeeded in West, in Europe. But I'm pro-Armenian. I just want to have strong Armenian. And if we have good relations with Russia, then it's fine. If we have bad relations with Russia, or we have relations that we can feel with content with Russia, but we don't feel that content, who is guilty in this situation? We are guilty of Russia. So we must think about this, how we build our relations with our main strategic partner, which is here, which has a military base in Gyumri, which has a garrison in Erebuni airport, which has peacekeepers in Nagorno-Karabakh. And if not these peacekeepers, so Stepanakert also will not be ours, if it's ours now. Because there are people arguing that it's not ours, it's Russian now. This is also something. Well, yeah, and also for the internal politics. When this incident happened, I decided for myself, we will not use this incident for our internal political interests, and I canceled the Congress of the party because we are going for snap elections. And we need to gather, we need to talk, we need to rewrite our party program, introduce this program to our people. We have presentations, speeches, it's a big event. But I realized that if Azeri forces, they are deep in our territory, 3.5 kilometers, and we have this kind of situation in the country, what kind of political congress we can have? What kind of text we must have, because we are an oppositional party. In our Congress, we will criticize the government in different areas of the, that they failed right after the revolution. But we decided to not use this situation for internal political interests. And we canceled and we postponed it. As for the revolution, what happened? Of course, we welcomed the revolution. Of course, Armenian people did this revolution. Nikol Pashinyan led this revolution. We welcome this. And thank you him for that. But for these 3 years that they governed this country, I can tell you that they must leave. So I say, Nikol Pashinyan, thank you for revolution, but I can't say thank you for these 3 years that you governed this country. You have no experience of being in the government, and during these 3 years, you didn't learn how to rule this country, and you are in a deep crisis. This crisis, it's a health crisis, social crisis, after war humanitarian crisis, and after November 10th statement that he signed, we are in a deep political crisis. And as I said to you before, we did a sacrifice. We agreed to have snap elections to solve the political crisis. If we are not solving the political crisis, then it's impossible to rebuild our army. It's impossible to get out from this kind of health crisis, and it's impossible to help our refugees who are here from Nagorno-Karabakh. So the only way of solving this situation was elections. So I hope that tensions in Syunik will be solved, and we'll continue our electoral processes in order to, mark a line, in order to get out from this situation.
I want to come back, Karnig. Forgive me for the follow-up. I want to talk about that sacrifice that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Let's come into the domestic snap elections for a minute.
Sure.
I agree with you. And perhaps I'll take it a step further. That's a big sacrifice that you did make in going along with the snap elections. Because what I see now on one end is you saying, and it's right there, a month or more, it's on your social media, and I quote you, you say, I make an official offer to Robert Kocharian and the representatives of the former government, step aside. We will remove this government. If you do not step aside, they will go on the path, feeding on you and reproducing themselves by campaigning against you. Well, I'm seeing the emergence of the exact prophecy that you've put in there on April 15, where all of a sudden, the average person in Armenia or in rural Armenia is thinking, oh, this is between a former president, Mr. Kocharian, and a current prime minister, Mr. Pashinyan, and all of a sudden, I'm not really seeing much talk about Edmon Marukyan. And now, look, there's a reason why I'm not in politics. I'm fascinated by it, but you know, politics is just very, very odd. You sacrifice for these snap elections, and I'm sitting thinking, you know, people are talking left and right, and they're saying, "Oh, I don't know if the Bright Armenia Party will even get into parliament this time around." Your thoughts?
So exactly, you cited, you know, what I said. You know, I predicted what will happen, and it is happening right now because of the media manipulation. So the whole media is controlled by the former regime guys and by the current government and you know, their proxies. And what is happening, you know, they tell people that you have Robert Kocharian, so former government people, or even Sargsyan with new coalition with Mr. Vanetsan, and Nikol Pashinyan. Decide, what do you want? So they will come, they will continue corruption, and you did revolution to get out from that very bad cycle after 27 years. And now they want to come back. So if you want to reject them again, if you want to do revolution again, it's like a continuing of the revolution, you know, and then they're lying to the people. Revolution happened and it's over. But they say revolution is in place, it's ongoing, so you must go to the elections, you must attend and vote for Mr. Pashinyan in order to not allow them to come back. So, and I argue that if this is the reality, so it's not elections, because I understand, in my understanding, elections, it's a process when you vote for someone whom you want. You don't vote for someone against someone. You know, when you vote for someone against someone, it's not elections, and that is why, you know, we will have very aggressive campaign. We will be in every village, in every city, telling the people that you have alternative, and you must vote for that alternative. And that alternative, it's Bright Armenia Party. We will tell them that you did revolution as a citizen of Armenia because you were not satisfied for the last 27 years how this country were governed. You did revolution because we were in a crisis of corruption, and our freedoms were violated. We want to change the situation. But yes, the guys who were appointed in a government by the Mr. Pashinyan and Mr. Pashinyan as well, they were not competent to capitalize the revolution. They couldn't use this very big open window of opportunities. They failed. And that's why Bright Armenia, as a force which welcomed and helped the revolution to happen, will come and will continue the reform agenda, which was failed already during these 3 years by Mr. Pashinyan and his team. So this will be the main message to the people of Armenia. We must show them that there is alternative, real alternative. And also we are a force that can reunite our people, unite all bright minds, also from diaspora, and to rebuild this country. If Pashinyan wins the elections, we cannot stop this hate speech. They will continue telling the people and former regime that they were guilty for this war. If the former regime will win elections, which I don't predict, frankly, so they will use and spend all their resources and time to telling the people that Nikol Pashinyan betrayed us and he is in a deal with Turks and stuff like that. So, but we need Armenia, which is going forward. We have no time, no resources to be in the same place and blah, 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 blah. You know, this hate speech, we all are fed up, you know, it's enough is enough. I mean, it's time to just go forward. I mean, to leave them in their places and go forward, because otherwise, I think we must understand that we can even lose our statehood if we are not clever enough.
And Mr. Marukyan, I want to come back to that thought, because I'm happy that you ended the statement there, because there's a couple of themes here that I think are important. I am not a politician as like Garo, but unlike Garo, I am not really fascinated by politics, to be honest. I am not fascinated by it.
That's the wrong word I used. It's not
that's okay.
I didn't want to say disgusted. I didn't want to say disgusted. We're talking to a politician. Right. He's also a lawyer.
I get it. But as lawyers, like, we understand the idea of leverage and negotiations. We understand the idea of pressure. And my question is this: we hear of the idea to rebuild and all of these concepts of kind of reestablishing ourselves. And we've had guests on our program indicate that the war is not over. There is still aggression. And we are going to see increasing aggression. We're going to see increasing incidents at the borders. It's no secret what Aliyev has stated regarding his aspirations for a peace of Armenia, and I think that so much of the political discourse seems to think that is involved in this rebuilding phase, assuming that the aggression is over. I don't buy that. I don't think the aggression is over. I don't feel the aggression is over. And I don't think that many people along the border feel that the aggression is over. And I can't help but think that, if during this, if we use the Azeris' argument of border demarcation process, 250 or even 10 Armenian soldiers wandered 3.5 kilometers into Azerbaijan, I guarantee you we have another POW situation.
Sure.
And I think at some point we have to say that there are some red lines, because we know from World War II that appeasement solves nothing. And we're dealing with a fascist regime at our border. And what we're doing is micro appeasement. And this is not I guess I'm a little bit frustrated, because on our program, whether it was with Mr. Tatoyan or others that have repeatedly highlighted what is happening in Syunik, I almost feel as if even with this particular incident, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the government's initial reaction to what was happening in Syunik was that there was nothing happening in Syunik, nothing dangerous happening in Syunik. And then 24 hours later, they had to admit that, in fact, something very serious was happening in Syunik. And let's also not forget that there have been direct attacks on the Human Rights Ombudsman, a non-political entity.
By the government.
By the government. And I don't say this for the purpose of conspiracy. I say this for the purpose of competence. Let's take, you are a political figure, Mr. Marukyan. Let's take you back 6 months. How would you have handled this 6-month phase differently to prevent us from being in the situation that we're in today? Because I do think that there are ways out of it. There are ways to negotiate. There are ways to apply pressure. And I think that perhaps hearing a different perspective would help us kind of come to terms with reality. So if I can give you that hypothetical, how would you have handled the post-November 10th to now, the 6-month period, so that we don't have situations like we're having in Syunik?
I don't know you read it or not. So in November 14th, Bright Armenia Party was the first party to publish roadmap, how to get out from this situation. And I, as a candidate for the prime ministership, said that I'm ready to take responsibility, because at that time we had a debate to elect new prime minister in the parliament if the incumbent prime minister will resign. but he didn't resign. So we had a roadmap. So according to that roadmap, there are many, many provisions about Armenian POWs, about missing soldiers, about but on the first place we put a provision about Armenia Russia strategic partnership to restart it, to find out the problems that we had before and to solve that problems, that we speak in one language, we understand what we want from each other and what we expect from each other. And the other thing, of course, was in the roadmap about rebuilding our army and equipping our 540 kilometers, these new borders. Of course, we also can be in a situation, if I will be the prime minister at that time, till now, I also can be in a situation that we can't have in all places military forces and equipment because of the situation and because of our capabilities. But I think the main thing that we stated at that time, it was this: let's not say that this one or that one, the incumbent prime minister or foreign presidents or prime ministers are guilty or not. Let's recognize the problem, and the problem is this: the symbol of defeat, Mr. Pashinyan, must leave because we think that he cannot manage this situation because he already became symbol of defeat and a guy who signed this document. That was the main argument. And nowadays, what is happening with us, it's proving this statement, it's proving what we said, because he as a symbol of defeat cannot negotiate with President Aliyev. And he's defeated, he didn't know what to do. He didn't know to give an order to kill these people or to make them hostages, and because he is constrained with his experience of this war that we were in a defeat. This is constraints. We must understand this, and it's the same person. We must change the person, and that was our argument. But on the other hand, I want to say that in a situation that we didn't have forces there, and then we realized that Azeris invaded, and we came there. Till now, I can tell you, we didn't have mistakes, because what we did, we started negotiations to not have a big conflict, which will be another war. So in this situation, starting May 12th, let's say, the steps that government is taking, I think it's good steps. I mean, applying to CSTO was a good decision. I support negotiating with Azeri forces to leave Armenian territory. This is also was a good decision, to not attack them because we must really manage this situation without having a new war. If it's not working, if it's not effective, then war. You always can have a war. You always can attack. So let's say we negotiate the whole day today as well, tomorrow as well. Then we give them a time to leave the Black Lake zone, and they didn't leave the territory. And what we must do? I think we must use force. But we use peaceful measures. Then, if it doesn't work, then of course we must use force. I forget the other part of your questions. I have something to say.
Maybe I can help by interjecting there.
Go ahead.
Do you believe, Mr. Marukyan, that perhaps, and I tend to agree, first of all, with what you said regarding, just as a general principle, when you have a defeated leader, the ability of the nation to move forward, regardless of the politics and conspiracy theories.
Yeah,
as a principle,
that was the main argument. Yeah.
Yeah. As a principle, it's very difficult to move forward if losing a war, especially this one, is extremely traumatic on the entire nation. And without that vision going forward, is difficult. That said, I say this again from the point of leverage and negotiation, and it is a peaceful means, and I can understand and appreciate, and whether I agree or not in terms of the use of force is really not my area of expertise because I don't know the actual capabilities. But we do have the November 10th agreement that Armenia has faithfully, perhaps way too faithfully, adhered to every single provision. One of the main provisions that is governed by international humanitarian law, as you well know, given your background, is paragraph 8, dealing with the return of POWs, which under international humanitarian law is immediate. In other words, the return of POWs should have happened before any territories were even handed over, number one. But
Sure.
that being said, wouldn't it be an opportunity to say that, let's take the first paragraph, all the forces shall stay where they are.
Where they are.
Nobody was in Black Lake. So isn't there an argument to be made that, at least the argument to be made, legally or diplomatically, that Azerbaijan has breached the agreement materially. And because it has breached the agreement, we are stopping all further negotiations on anything else until the POW issue is resolved and they return back. I don't hear that type of negotiation rhetoric even. And I don't know, of course, I'm not in the back rooms and perhaps neither are you, but you would think that there would be a little bit of proactive statements saying Azerbaijan is breaching the November 10th agreement. Yeah. And because it's breached the November 10th agreement, all conversations are off until this happens. With the CSTO Defense Pact, it now puts all the CSTO countries on notice saying that, well, it's going to end up in a war, and then we're going to have to go in and defend Armenia because of our obligations. So we will now put pressure on Azerbaijan to do, but I don't think that's happening. In fact, I think the opposite's happening. Lavrov comes to Yerevan, he goes to Baku, he leaves, and then within a few hours, they're walking into the Black Lake region. It seems as if we don't have agency, as they say, and we don't have a voice, or we are scared of our own voice, not of our own the consequences of war necessarily, but we are scared of our voice in the negotiations. I don't know. It's a thought. I think that there are a lot of chips on the table to negotiate. Why isn't that being played, in your opinion, Mr. Marukyan? Add to that. You said when Karnig is talking about these 3.5 kilometer incursion, let's not forget that point one, where the forces are supposed to stay where they are, is the reason why a few days after the ceasefire, 60 or 70 of our soldiers who stayed where they were at, where the hostility, active warfare supposedly was supposed to end, only to be ambushed and taken hostage and then be labeled as terrorists who have now, come on to Azeri lands, etc. They can't have it both ways. And this is where, and I want you to answer Karnig's question, but I look for opposition in any government, whether it's a U.S., the one that's not in a position of decision-making, primary decision-making. I look to you, Mr. Marukyan, to keep them honest. So
yes, let's put this way. In Strasbourg and in many other international arenas, I talked about this. I stated that Azerbaijan violated the ceasefire statement and tripartite agreement between Armenia, Russia, and Azerbaijan, and they violated all provisions. I can tell you. You said provision number one, yes, that all forces must stay in their places. So before they were arguing that this is about Nagorno-Karabakh, this is not about
Armenia.
Armenia-Azerbaijan borders, which right after war must be, changed. First argument was this, but I stated that they didn't implement. Armenian side implemented it in a good faith, but Azerbaijan didn't implement it. They violated this statement. They didn't give back prisoners of war. And even if we didn't have this kind of provision about prisoners of war, according to international humanitarian law, according to customary law, according to international human rights law, they must give all prisoners of war to Armenia. But they didn't do so. They said, oh, they are not prisoners of war, they are criminals, and we have criminal proceedings in our internal procedures in Azerbaijan, and they are under the investigation, stuff like that. But I just also want to address the issue of Syunik. I just want to tell you that maybe you didn't think about this way, that when we say Syunik issue, we detach the problem. When we say Tavush issue or Kerkonian region issue or Sotk issue, we detach the problem. Before, Armenian citizens here in Yerevan, in Armenia, or maybe in diaspora, they think that Jabrail, it's not our border. And when we lost Jabrail, so they didn't realize that we lost a territory which was our border. Now there is an argument about Syunik, and again I have feeling that some people, they don't understand that what is Syunik and whether Syunik is our border or not, because when the border was in Jabrail, it was like far away from us, like it's Jabrail, I don't know where it's Jabrail, I don't know where it's Horadis, and when we lost, that border became Black Lake. And now they don't know what is Black Lake. Look, Black Lake, where is that? It's Syunik, it's close by to Sishan, it's under Sishan or whatever. So where is that? So that's why I want to change the packaging of the issue. There's not Syunik issue, a Syunik security issue. There is Armenian security issue. There is security issue of Armenia, because Syunik is not something, detached from Armenia. It's Armenia. So there is a security issue for whole territory of Armenia. Doesn't matter, it's Syunik, it's Tavush, or it's Kerkonian region. And that's why, the people here even, they must understand. If you go and walk the center of the Yerevan, let's say go to Cascade, nice restaurants, cafeterias there. Yesterday, for instance, or Saryan Street, where we have very nice restaurants and cafes and wine places. So you cannot feel that Azeri forces invaded Armenia and they go deep to our territory, 3.5 kilometers. You know why? Because they think that it's I don't know where. It's a Black Lake where I don't know where is the Black Lake. And the same happened with Jabrail, and the same happened with Horadis and other places, And that's why I think we must work with our people that they realize what is happening. So Black Lake, it's Yerevan, let's say. They must understand that it's Cascade, it's Saryan Street. Azeris right now in Saryan Street, and they drink wine. So
and Black Lake is Seven Lake.
Yeah, I mean, if they feel like that, they will not behave that nothing happened. Nothing happened, and nothing happening right now. So everything is fine, and then we can live our life as we were living before the war and before this new reality. As an opposition, I can tell you that we criticize a lot the government, the foreign ministry, the Ministry of Defense, and we argue that you must say this, you must say that, you must argue this. According to international law, you can do this, but the whole problem is this: they are incapable. It's a defeated government. A defeated government cannot argue that Azerbaijan violated this or that. It's a defeated government. It's a symbol of defeat. And that's why we lobbied these elections with the hope that we can have a change in a situation and in the government, and we can come to power, and we can argue that Azerbaijan violated this. We can argue with Russia that we must do this together, and so on and so on. And, you know, I understand you, I understand the whole diaspora, that if you look to the situation of Armenia from outside, it's totally different. The big picture is different. I mean, the situation is much more complex, much more difficult than we are looking in it. I don't want to say that, you know, that our army has capability to fight with these 250 people or not. Of course we have, but what will be aftermath? We must also evaluate this situation. And then now we hear a lot of voices that you must do this, you must do that, why you didn't attack, why we didn't have forces there. Even before the war, many Armenian citizens, they didn't know that we have 4 borders. So 2 borders of 2 of the 4 borders, our official 4 borders, are kept by Russian forces. Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. They think that we, as a state, we keep all our 4 borders, and we can talk about our sovereignty on daily basis. Remember how much Armenian forces and Armenian people were talking about sovereignty before the war. And when you ask them, if you are so much sovereign, why you didn't keep your borders with Iran? Why you didn't keep your borders with Turkey? Why you didn't use your own forces if you have, and if you are sovereign? You must understand how much sovereignty you have, how much forces you have. In this very difficult region, what is happening with Iran. Right now we have a crisis in Israel, in Gaza Strip, and we must understand that it can just come to Iran very quickly, this conflict. And what we must do at that time, if 1 million refugees will run and find out themselves in Megri, in Armenian borderline, what we are going to do? Do we have a strategy? I mean, we must understand where we are. And we have people in the government that they even didn't know how kind of map we have. Like let's say, I think they missed geography class during their studies in the school. Because if you know the geography, where we are, you will be much more responsible what you talk, what you say, what you do, I mean, before the war, than they were doing. So,
Mr. Marukyan, I have many dear friends who live in Armenia. Some of those dear friends are diasporan Armenians who moved their families to Armenia.
Yeah.
Some of those friends who also maintain residences here in Los Angeles area, the last year alone, going and coming, the last 7-8 months, the war and thereafter, if you will, every time they come back, they are more and more devastated. They talk about the same things that you alluded to on Sarian Street. You would not even think that there was a war that was going on during the war. I could tell you that as many people that are not in tune with what's going on in Armenia, there are just as many people on the opposite side of it in the diaspora who stay up nights. You're talking to 2 of those many that stay up nights and have been staying up nights since the very first day of September 27th. The problem is, it seems to me that we are so afraid. We as a nation appear to be so afraid because we lost the war that we're afraid we better not say something, we better not do something because, what else can happen? And, you know, it is playing into the maniac in Baku, because the maniac in Baku keeps making statements that 40 kilometers Zangezur corridor is going to be opened. That's part of the 9 steps. And there's, you know, there's meetings between the deputy minister of Armenia versus, you know, meeting with his counterpart of Azerbaijan and Russia. And by the way, the railroads belong to Russia. You know, excuse me, those railroads, I don't care who they belong to in terms of items as objects, they are on Armenian territory. Is there a mechanism where in Parliament, I mean, look, I'm mindful of the fact that, you know, right after the war, when the so-called 17 or 27 or however many political parties came out of nowhere and they were on the streets, you didn't join. Your party did not join. The Prosperous Armenia joined, and then it didn't join. It was in, it was out. You know, there was Edmon Marukyan, now there's Robert Kocharian. I don't, you know, I can't make sense of all the changes of dynamics. But you said, no, I'm not going to do that. The Bright Armenia Party is not going to do that. But the Bright Armenia Party, I mean, it's like, I don't see you afraid. You're calling it as you see it in Parliament, right or wrong. Sometimes I agree with you, sometimes I don't. Sometimes, you know, sometimes I can't make sense of it. Look, how can you allow the government, and I understand that, you know, your party does not have ministers. At one point, the justice minister was from your party. Now it's not. How can you allow, as an opposition party, and I don't mean to be, you know, I'm not trying to attack you. I'm just trying to understand the politics of it. How can you allow these discussions to happen, supposedly, where you then end up, you know, hearing Aliyev talking, look, the working levels at the deputy prime minister's level are doing this, and I could tell you the railroad corridor is going to be open. And by the way, you know, whoever talks about revenge, the fist of our fist is there, and remember, we will hit you again. And then I tell myself, but you know, Edmon Marukyan said, you know, the nation that liberated Shushi once can liberate Shushi and Hadrut again. You said that, and I loved it when I saw it. I want to know how we can do that. I want the Armenian human being to find his integrity and self-respect and say, stop, enough is enough. And I don't know what it's going to take, but this government's not doing it.
It's a complex question, and it's come from the same point that that defeated government is no longer representing Armenian people here and Armenian people worldwide. Because Armenian people, of course, understand that we are defeated, but it's not something that we cannot manage. Why I'm saying this? Because we won the war in 1994, so it was 1-0 the count. Okay, now it's 1-1. It's 1-1. Even it's not 1-1 because Stepanakert still Armenian. Armenian people live there, and they have many claims, and they cannot push their claims. But we must tell our people that we are a nation which liberated Shushi. We are a nation which kept Nagorno-Karabakh about 30 years, let's say. And yes, because we didn't capitalize our victory and we screwed up our independence starting from 1991. We didn't build strong statehood. And because of that, we are punished. Because of that, we are punished. And that's okay because it's our guilt. We must recognize that we didn't build strong country because of corruption, because of all things that happened before revolution, you know. And that is why revolution happened. That is why revolution happened. And but we are the nation that liberated Shushi. So, and we of course can liberate Shushi again if we unite first, if we find our self-respect and be proud that who we are and for what we stand for, and rebuild our army, and then rebuild our state, the whole system from bottom up or from up down, doesn't matter. Rebuild everything. And then we can think about liberation of the Shushi and other places, for sure. Right now in Armenia, to talk about these kind of things, maybe it's not the time, but to remind the people that you are the people of the nation that liberated Shushi. We must remind all of us, because what happened in like a couple of days ago, May 9, it's a day of victory. Yeah. We celebrated, and I went to Monument Park, Victory Park, and people are devastated, disappointed. They knew that our grandfathers they had this victory, against fascism, and then we knew that our fathers and brothers they had a victory in 1994, and again in the same day. And but since we don't have Shushi right now, there was a question in air, whether we must mark this day as a victory day or not. And what I said, because that day it's about Shushi liberation, and of course we liberated Shushi. It's true, we liberated Shushi, and we must mark that day as a victory day to remind us that after that we didn't capitalize that victory, first of all, and we didn't do our homework that we must do, and then to rethink, to rebuild, to restart, and go forward again, and to think about future liberations. That liberation maybe will be my generation, maybe we will not be the liberators, our sons and other generations will do so, but our job right now is to do our homework. This is our generation job, and to get out from this defeated feeling. We are defeated. This feeling, we must get out from this feeling. You must understand that our army, I'm telling you, frankly, our army, our brothers, our sons, from 18 to 20 years, and the whole army, they fought a war that, according to experts, after Iraq-Iran war in this region, nobody's seen such a war, such intense war, and with so much of new technologies used in this war. I can tell you this was online war in some words. This was electronic war in some words. And during these 44 days, you cannot, I know stories of heroism, and we are a nation that fought this war. Of course, we are defeated, but we can also, evaluate what kind of forces came against us, what kind of forces used against us, and how we fought against these forces. There are military people who said we had a Soviet style machine like Lada, that's a Lada car, but we use it as a Ferrari, we use it as a Ferrari, and what happened? You all were in that process, and you are following from diaspora. We were here, and we all know what is happening here. We all know how much equipment our army has. We all know how our positions were equipped. Really, during 27 years or 30 years, how we equipped our positions very badly. Poor situation. No equipment, no good military engineering style stuff, and we must recognize that we are guilty. We are guilty for this defeat as a nation that failed to build his statehood stronger than we had during the war and we have now. And because of this, I just want to say, you know, of course, we are proud that we have such a heroism. We lost more than, we didn't have real digits now, more than 4,000 people. And if we wanna recognize their heroism, we must do our homework. If we didn't rebuild our army, and if we didn't rebuild our country and get out from this defeated cycle, then their heroism, we can say, it's not really recognized. If we do our homework, if we rebuild our country, then we can say their heroism is recognized. That is why
the sacrifice was not in vain, is what you mean.
Yeah,
the sacrifice was not in vain.
Sure. And you know, that's why, of course, we are angry that how can be, you know, Azeri forces invaded Armenian territory and nothing happened. Of course, we all are angry, but we also understand that what happened before with us and what kind of capabilities we have right now. And let's say we tag them, what will happen aftermath? If we have peaceful measures to manage this crisis, we must use all our forces and all our mechanisms that we have on table.
Mr. Marukyan, and I'm happy that you raised those themes, and the sacrifices indeed were tremendous, and it was not just the young men, but their families, mothers, sisters, spouses, children who lost people. We lost compatriots, and we lost compatriots in, like you said, a battle that was unheard of, frankly, yet in this world. And I do feel the real strength in your statement regarding national unity and setting purpose and direction. That is absolutely essential. I wanted to ask you just a question. Given, and you raised a very interesting point, the fallout from the conflict right now in the Middle East and how that could impact Iran and how that could impact Armenia. Mm-hmm. And I want to focus on not that conflict necessarily, but on your perspective, because I think it's impossible of a country of 3 million people in this particular geostrategic neighborhood for its leadership not to have the most sophisticated understanding of foreign relations, of intelligence. I think that I want to ask you about the future. There is no question that the alliance between Armenia and Russia is absolutely essential to our security structure. There's no question. We can be from Washington, D.C. or Paris or Moscow and say that it is reality. And there is there's no other major power that has been willing to put boots on the ground. We call it for what it is. Yeah. That's true. My question to you is in this rebuilding phase, and in really kind of specific terms, if I can ask you to answer, how do you see our geopolitical reality? Not in terms of how do you see us building alliances? Obviously, we have to strengthen the relationship and the security structure with Russia. But as one of our viewers says, the idea that Tajikistan is going to come and defend Armenia's borders is a little bit out there. Especially given the fact that the CSTO has never been tested like this.
Yes.
So I could see Russia, obviously, and perhaps Belarus, but I don't see Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan running to the border to protect, Black Lake. That being said, we are in a very inhospitable neighborhood. The threat that we have from the east is probably, just in terms of population and strength of the military, is 20% of the threat that we have from the west. We don't necessarily have great neighbors to the north. Our neighbor to the south has international issues that cause problems. What do you see? How does Armenia increase its standing and thereby its sovereignty through foreign relations that are meaningful, not just words that what we saw during the war, but do we have opportunities to work with countries, for example, like India? Do we have opportunities to work with countries that are not like us? They are large, they are powerful. Some of them have the same enemies we do. There was plenty of talk about jihadists and technology and information being used by Pakistan in the Gharapagh war. Let's not forget. What are your visions for that? I guess in terms of a new Armenia, one that is awake and understands where it sits in the world today. What is your vision for that?
Thank you for a question. It's really, really good question and complex one. I can tell you that right after when we, solve our internal issues, of course, we must look to the world and start to rebuild our relations with, as you said, countries like India. There's a big interest from China to cooperate with Armenia. We have different comprehensive agreement with the European Union, which is not really implemented yet. And there is a big window of opportunities. I mean, in the field of economy, agriculture, and many other fields to cooperate with the European Union. And there is no any clash with Armenia Russia relations or interests. There is nothing. You can develop as much as you can using this agreement with the European Union. And again, the same with the United States. I think we have resources. We have places that we can cooperate with the United States, but we didn't do so. And our relations, like was toasts. We have good toasts about U.S. friendship, and in the same in the U.S. So in reality, I can tell you, our diplomacy failed. Our diplomacy failed for 27 years, and our diplomacy failed after that 3 years as well, because it was inertia of the failed diplomacy that we had. I stated about this during different occasions in the parliament or in the different gatherings. I said that we need proactive diplomacy, not reactive one. Our diplomacy was like this: to wait, and if something initiated against us, then we fight against it. We didn't initiate anything. We didn't, use our friendship with different countries, and we didn't use even our diaspora network. Even we didn't use our network of Armenian Apostolic Church, which is also very important. Diplomacy platform that we didn't use. We have many advantages that other countries doesn't have. Other countries like Armenia, small countries, but we didn't use it. Our diplomacy totally failed. And I can tell you, when the war started, I said, first of all, let's recognize the fact that Armenian diplomacy failed. When war started, then diplomacy failed. And right after the war, I said that we must restart our diplomacy, and we must start to talk with all countries, doesn't matter neighboring or not neighboring, to see how we can rebuild our relations. Because during the war, Armenian people here and in diaspora were waiting that the whole world will say the word of the condemnation, against Azerbaijan. But they didn't recognize the fact that during 20 years or more, Azerbaijan worked very hard in international platforms, telling them that my territories are occupied by Armenia. And if you are not using leverages to tell them, get out from our territories, then we will use force. And when the signal come to the capital cities of different countries, what they find out? They find out, oh, this is that issue that Armenia was occupying, territories of Azerbaijan during, maybe, 20 or more years. And then, oh, we remember this issue. Now they started, as they said, liberation operation, and we understand it. And then Armenian people are frustrated. Oh, why they didn't do any statements? They didn't condemn Azerbaijan, stuff like that. But we forgot the situation that we had before, how we work in that platforms when Azerbaijan was claiming and proving with fake, false arguments that Armenia occupied Azeri territories. So we lost that war in a diplomacy before the war started in a battlefield. So we must recognize this. So that's why my vision is this. Armenia can, of course, first of all, restart and fill the gap that we had with Russia, Armenia-Russia relations, first of all. Second, we have this deep and comprehensive agreement with the European Union, which is not implemented yet. And there are many possibilities to develop our economy, working, close with the European Union. Second, France, how much brotherly standing with Armenia. And this is a big advantage that we can have Armenia-French relations developed. Right after revolution, Germany, France, I can tell you, we're asking about proposals of cooperation in different fields. Many fields, but it's economy. And Armenian government has no capability to even develop any proposal working with these countries. Angela Merkel visited Armenia. She didn't sign anything here, really. It just was a visit to walk in a North Avenue and make selfies with people. So the populist government of Armenia was trying to show how much the people of Armenia love our own government and how much they love Angela Merkel that visited Armenia. And he was guest of the Prime Minister Pashinyan. At the same time, she visited Georgia, Tbilisi, and they signed many agreements with Georgia, and they capitalized it. I mean, this is just one example how we failed our diplomacy, how we failed the big open window of opportunities, and we didn't capitalize it. And these opportunities are open right now, till now for Armenia, and that we can use it. And going forward, I can tell you that, again, India, China, very big and very strong countries. Instead of developing our relations with India, in Yerevan, we have burned Mahatma Gandhi's statue, and which is like a big frustration for Indian diplomats and Indian people. Why? What is happening in Armenia? I mean, why you erected this statue, and why then you allow them, I don't know whom, provocators or whatsoever, doesn't matter, to burn the statue. This is just an example how we can fail relations, and even if we are not developing that relations, how we can, just instead of having good relations, to burn the statue of a statesman and a person who is a saint in India, Mahatma Gandhi. Just I was like, thinking like, what is happening? Why we are doing this? It's a chaos. It's a mess. It's a total mess. And this is also because of the non-competent people in the government. Non-competent, totally non-competent.
Let me ask you.
Of course, Armenia has future. Of course, Armenia has future. And I said this slogan that a ruling party adopted. We have future. The future is in place. I said, before your government we didn't have such a question. Now you must convince during the campaign to our people that we have future. It's silly, you know. Of course we have future. You know. It's not a question. Of course Armenia has future.
Mr. Marukyan, let me ask you a related question about the future.
Yeah.
So you met with the ambassador of the Kingdom of Netherlands to the Republic of Armenia, I don't know, yesterday, I think.
Yeah, before that I met with the British ambassador as well. And
yes,
meeting
you did.
Ambassadors all the time.
So you know, in following these types of meetings, generally I see a lot of that, a lot of similar types of meetings being taken on by the human rights defender, Mr. Tatoyan, and others over the years I've seen take these meetings.
Yeah.
And hearing you talk earlier, you know, I had written myself a note to ask you so that I don't forget. And that was, I wanted to ask you, so you had said that during that meeting with these ambassadors, at least Netherlands, perhaps even the British one, I don't recall the specifics, that you touched upon the return of the POWs from Azerbaijan. And there was talk about highlighting the efforts of the Kingdom of Netherlands or the Netherlands itself. My question to you is, that hearing you speak, which I think, you know, I kind of probably I can guess the answer. In your opinion, the European Union countries, don't they need an incentive to do what they should be doing? Look, you know, I have a lot of people in France. France was a guarantor of, you know, independence of Lebanon, where I was born. So I have a weakness for France. But, you know, talk is cheap, right? People can say all the right things, but you got to walk the walk. So, but in order for people to be enticed to walk the walk, not just on North Avenue, like Angela Merkel, not just walking that kind of walk, but to do something, it seems to me you must entice them. And I think that, you know, this IT new generation of Armenia is great, but I've been most, if not all parts of Armenia. I've been most, if not all parts of Artsakh. You can't have IT everywhere, right? So there must be other things, other industry, export, import. There must be some incentives for these countries to have a vested interest. The same way Azerbaijan, you know, is flowing its oil until it runs dry, I guess, and it's gaining friends, buying weapons from countries that they probably don't even need to buy the weapons, but they're doing it because they got the money to do it. So with so all of these in the background, here's the punchline. Elections, snap elections, your sacrifice going along with the snap elections. What is your goal for the upcoming elections? And within the context of your goal, where do you fit Artsakh? Now, people say, oh, Artsakh and Armenian genocide is what diaspora cares about. I say, you know what? Artsakh is #1 priority because it's a security priority of Armenia for starters. So I'll stop with that.
I have to run right after this question. I think if you have any other questions,
no, this is my last question.
Find them. No,
this is my last question.
Okay. First of all, let me tell you how I work with ambassadors of the European Union countries. So I tell them, frankly, that the image of the European Union, and particularly the image of the Britain, let's say, I will not say Netherlands, but Britain as I would say, is damaged here in Armenia. And they say, why? What happened? And I say, because during the war, Armenian people who believe in values that we share together, you know, Christian values, because European Union based on Christian values and humanity and, you know, stuff like that. So we believe that you will intervene, and we believe that you will condemn. We believe that you will keep our side and not make statements putting both countries in an equal line, you know. And they said, "Oh, that's so bad. That's so bad. What you can do to change the situation?" I said, "Yeah, you can. There are things that you can do. First of all, you can use your leverages as Britain or European Union country, not Britain, like Netherlands, as I said, to push Azerbaijan to give up, you know, their stupid arguments and return Armenian prisoners of war. If you can negotiate it, let's say there's a statement or information that British Foreign Office negotiated and intervened in a situation, and Azerbaijan returning 4 prisoners of war, you know, as a result of the British efforts. So then your damaged image in Armenia will be somehow, you know, redesigned. And they say, "Oh, it's a great proposal. Thank you for idea. We'll do something. We'll work, you know, we'll work that way." And on the other hand, I say, you know, if POW issue is a difficult one, and I understand that it's a difficult one, and it's politicized one. So then why you didn't help Armenia? We are in a humanitarian crisis. We have thousands of refugees and homeless people from Nagorno-Karabakh. Why you didn't help? You have many countries giving them aid. And this is another idea. So I lobby during every meeting with any ambassador of the European Union or any other developed country, let's say United States as well. I do this lobbying that help Armenia with this issue, help Armenia with this issue, and I give them ideas how they can do that and what is their interest in that. And coming back to your main question, the last question, as you said, our positioning regarding Nagorno-Karabakh, regarding Artsakh, in our platform, it's written together with the security. So we have security and Nagorno-Karabakh in the same place. So the people of Armenia didn't understand that before this war. They didn't understand that Jabrail, it's a good example to say that Jabrail is an Armenian security issue. They didn't understand. They thought that Jabrail, it's a far away and I don't know where, and maybe 5% of the Armenian citizens have been there or not. And that's why, you know, and that's why this understanding, I mean, it's the failure of our statehood that during 30 years, they couldn't explain people what is Jabrail, what is Horadis, and how much it's important for our security system overall. And our Artsakh issue, as I said, it's a main priority of our party. We think that we must restart OSCE Minsk Group chairmanship. So this unique group must work again. And we all know that November 10 document doesn't have any provision about the status of the Nagorno-Karabakh, doesn't have any provision about the independence of the Nagorno-Karabakh or self-determination clause. And that is why it's left for the OSCE Minsk Group. And we think that France, United States, Russia must be, you know, working again together in this field. And also we have statements of the 3 countries that they are ready to continue their work in OSCE Minsk Group chairmanship system. And after that, you know, we must work hard again, start negotiations for the final status of the Nagorno-Karabakh. And also we have a provision about deoccupation of the Nagorno-Karabakh and Artsakh lands. I mean Hadrut, I mean Shushi, first of all. Other parts will be part of the negotiations as well. But Hadrut and Shushi, first of all, it's an issue of deoccupation. And it's occupied, and I stated in Strasbourg, about it, and I will state about it in Brussels, in Washington, in Moscow, in Paris, in the future when I will be there.
Excellent. Mr. Marukyan, thank you so much for giving us your time today. We covered a whole range of topics, and I have to say, and we appreciate your candor and your straightforwardness with dealing with the questions and responding. I think that you've painted a picture for the future, which is really important, and have stressed the need to be for national unity on a number of important points. And of thinking about what the future could look like or should look like. And we appreciate your time very much. I'd like to kick it over to Garo now for his closing statements.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
Thank
Garo.
you.
Thank you.
You know, if you stay with us for 60 seconds, I will say the following. I want to thank you, Mr. Marukyan. You are the first of the political party leaderships currently in Armenia, who graciously accepted our invitation to join us, to talk and talk candidly. We appreciate your perspectives, and we hope that the audience understands and does not get involved in personalities, but rather sticks to principles. Whether you agree or disagree with one's principle, a principled man and a principled human being is a valuable human being, and that is what we need more and more of in Armenia. And I thank you for standing firm by your principles. We will, in the weeks ahead, have other colleagues of Mr. Marukyan who head other political parties or alliances, should they have the open-mindedness to discuss candidly with us things that they believe are the right ways or the critical issues facing the Armenian nation today. Some of those guests, other than the political figures, will be the human rights defender of Artsakh, the human rights defender of Armenia, who is in Syunik at the moment, with whom Karnig and I are in daily contact, as most of our followers and viewers know. We are also going to have, in the very next several days, guests from the Jerusalem Armenian quarter to discuss the issues that are critical to the Armenian sector. And we're going to have a bit more activity, a flurry of activities. And all I ask from our viewers and their family and friends, folks, let's get engaged. I remember during the 44-day war, everybody was Armenian, everybody was interested, everybody was engaged. Well, that war has not ended. The war is an existential struggle for security of every person in Armenia so that they can prosper and live in the comfort of their home and their environment. And those who are in public service deserve our appreciation. Whether we agree or disagree with their perspective, no one can say that a public servant, Mr. Marukyan, yourself included, does not have in his heart what he believes and in his mind what he thinks is the best approach for a better Armenia, better Artsakh, better Armenian nation. Thank you for your service. Varskat Kadar, Lavorunenas, Cyrili.
Thank you, Garojan. Thank you so much. Let's keep in touch, and I will be available for you whenever you need, and we can talk.
Thank you.
Continue.
Thank you.
I hope this crisis will be solved today or
I hope
these
so.
days. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.